Hello there, this is Mr. Jaeger, and welcome to this retrospective summary of the open beta for the Division 2. Now, because this video is sort of the open beta, and because I've already played the closed beta, which this particular beta didn't have, there's a lot of betas, a lot of different things from one beta to the next beta, I'm not going to be talking in depth about what to expect from this particular beta. So, basically, what I would advise people to do, if they're not entirely sure what I'm talking about when it comes to certain things, is to go down to the description below, whereupon they can have a look at my closed beta videos, because I was quite fortunate enough to be able to jump into the closed beta over a month ago, and so now with only like less than a week before the game's due to come out, hopefully I'm only aiming to try and provide the little tidbits of extra info to keep you tiding away until the actual game comes out. And let me know what you think in the description as well. Comment section, of course. The comment section, if you enjoyed it, if you got to play it, if you got to play both betas. And yeah, if you've counted how many betas I've had, you're a special person. Anyway, so without further ado, let's get started. So, the open beta, what is different from the closed beta? Well, in terms of content, there wasn't a lot added onto that particular thing. From what I could tell, it was mainly just performance upgrades, I think, and maybe a few tweaks to the sort of classes, which I have no problems with at all. I'd rather have a stable system with not much new than an amazingly, all these new features, but the game doesn't run. I can imagine a couple of games that have done that in the past. But regardless, let's have a look at some of the new things we did get from this thing. And mainly this comes down to two factors. One was a new mission where we got to fight in a communication center, which is pretty cool, and a new skill option alongside all of the other ones. So let's talk about the skill option. So this particular thing is known as the Chem Launcher, which looks fairly similar and kind of feels a bit similar to the grenade slash flashbang launcher thing that you could get from the Division 1. The only difference is that this thing hasn't got as much of a range, and its velocity isn't so great. So you're gonna have to really lift up. You're gonna have to almost aim at the ceiling if you want to get a semi-long range shot across a room, for example, if you want to hit it and not just go into your face or whatever. And in this particular thing, this weapon has 4 options to choose from. The 2 that weren't available for the beta, regretfully, one was basically a corrosive gas, which is like an area denial point, which causes damage to your opponent's health, armor, disorientates them, that sort of thing. The other one is basically a heal area, so again, fairly similar to what you could get in the first division, only, probably a bit more realistic in those regards. It doesn't make you feel it doesn't feel as gamey as before, shall we say. So the options that you had that were in the beta was a fire gas and riot foam. I know that's not what they're really called, but fire gas is so much easier to explain than the technical term. So we'll talk about the one I didn't like first, then we can get on to the good stuff. So the one that I didn't really use a lot of, because I honestly didn't feel it was useful to me at all, was the riot foam. I did try it, I did, attempt to try it, but I just kind of lost faith with it almost immediately. The riot foam is the exact same stuff that we saw in the E3 presentation trailer, where basically you fire a foam-like device into the enemy to suppress a rioting fever, I suppose. And it basically immobilizes your target for about 2 to 3 seconds before they explode or whatever. Well, before they get out of it, should I say. There's no damage to them at all. It's literally just immobilizing your target. It seems to be that the closer you are, the longer your opponent will stay in the foam. I do not know if this is due to the fact, if it is because you are closer, or if it is because of your skill level, but unfortunately, we couldn't really test the skill level theory, so I'm going with depending on how close you are. And truth be told, I don't really think this particular option is going to be that effective for most people, because it seems like you're either going to use it to immobilize a high-level enemy, or like a boss character for another member of your team, or yourself, to be able to get a shot to the head or a weak point that, previously you wouldn't have had as much of a option to do for the PvE side. However, I do feel that this particular option is regretfully more suited to PvP, like for example in the Dark Zone, shall we say, on which in this particular beta I didn't get the opportunity to play in the Dark Zone, though truth be told, as mentioned in the previous videos regarding that, I don't exactly like the PvP aspect in this game. It's a bit like, yeah, I know, people want to be dicks because people want to be dicks, so rather, you know, I prefer the PvE aspect of this game. But no, like I can imagine the chem launcher with the riot foam is just going to be a delight to all the trolls out there who will wait until the person is just about there at the helicopter just before they extract, and then poof, there goes your expensive looking sniper rifle that was in the Dark Zone because some dick nugget threw a riot foam at you and sniped you in the face. So fun times with that one, I am sure. But no, the other weapon, the other sort of slot you could utilize it for is what I call the fire gas. Basically, it does the same thing ish as the poisonous gas. But instead of basically poisoning your opponent and making them feel bad, you're setting them on fire. Basically, you fire the shot into either an enemy or an area, or, you know, my personal favorite, firing it into a static emplacement. And basically, either by you shooting the gas or the area around the gas, or the enemy shooting the gas, you know, by their explosion and from the front of their guns, it causes a spark which then creates a waft of air, like fire and stuff, and for like 2 to 3 seconds it basically does a shit ton of damage to the enemy, and makes the whole, and sets, and depending on how close the other people are, sets them on fire too. Again, the gas doesn't last that long, it only lasts like a couple of seconds before going out, leaving your opponents writhing on the floor in pain for either you to shoot, or just laugh as they turn to ash and, what was it, flambe. So, it's a pretty decent weapon, and when it comes to utilizing both slots, you do get an option for multiple shots in one, for which then, as your skills reset, you basically reset shots. For some reason, that is a difficult thing to say without fucking it up. And with the flame shot, you can sort of what I call a creeping barrage, where you can line up a bunch of these gas options, which when you shoot one, the flames will will cause the other two to explode as well. Which means if you really want to be an asshole to someone, you could pretty much deny an entire balcony of just fire to eliminate most resistances, which is very, very satisfying, and personally one of my favorite tactics. So, now that we've talked a bit about the chem launcher, let's talk about the mission. So the mission is basically, this is the last mission that you get to access in your free roaming environment. And the mission itself it has the objectives for you to go to this, what I'm going to call the communications center, because it was like a museum, it was a radio, it was a TV center. So I'm just going to call it the communications center for Sanity Ware. So the objectives for you and obviously your division team is to go into the communications center, fight your way through the True Sons, one of these sort of militia style, like imagine LMB but slightly shitter sort of quality of groups, and basically you encounter them with their slightly up-tiered version of equipment, unlike the hyenas, who up until this point have been the dominant faction that you've encountered throughout most of the free roam area for your early tier character. And basically you've got to go through this particular building, clearing out the different True Sons before going to a network like tablet laptop thing, locking the True Sons out of the network that they've been utilizing as a recruitment stand, as well as various other means to propagate their message. And then following that, you are then to go to the roof, whereupon they've set up some EMP tripods, probably the first time you've encountered them in the campaign. So then you knock them out and prevent them from destroying the the communications dish, before then you take on an enemy boss of sorts. So not a lot to do, to be honest with you. But no, the mission itself is a fairly simple premise. Go in building, shoot bad guys, stop bad guys from using fancy pants thing, clear it out, and then kill big boss at the end. Fairly simple sort of stuff. But the mission itself was a lot of fun. I liked the change in environments. I liked the vertical combat we had. There wasn't much of it, but there was a few moments where we were in a building or a room, and a bunch of bad guys just suddenly came out at us from above. above, which made things a little bit interesting. But regardless, it was a much more enjoyable mission. That style of combat I very much enjoyed, and I definitely felt a sense of, ooh, when you're in a mission in the Division or any particular game, and your brain just kind of clicks into a sort of a mindset when doing a mission or completing something. And I was joined by Nimbus, my good friend, on this particular adventure, as you will. And we basically tore up town. Our comms were beautiful. Everything worked brilliantly. We flowed like diarrhea through each other. It was ridiculous. Sounds really nasty, but when you work so well with someone, you click and boom. So anyway, yeah, it was a really good mission. I had a lot of fun playing through it, and I only got to do it really once. So I'm looking forward to doing it again when the game comes out, because damn, it's going to be awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to when that mission comes out. Obviously, I'm looking forward to other missions, but that in that particular environment with more, and hoping we can do that again with the invaded factions of the Black Tusk, because that would be even more dope. So now that we talked about the new things, let's have a quick talk about performance before finally wrapping off with the different specialties. So, performance, in comparison to the first game, so much better. There was none of the famous Delta errors, which basically meant that the server was having a bit of a hiccup, so thank fuck. We also had no catastrophic performance issues. There was a bit of a degrade on my first, when I first loaded the game up and got it to work, that the first time I personally tried to get the game up, there was a bit of a UI glitch, and it resulted in me having to restart the game. Fun. We also had an issue where the game kind of ran at a lower and lower quality as I've been playing for quite some time, and basically upon restarting, the game basically went up to like 60-70 frames. So could be a bit of an issue regarding hopefully that issue that they said in the closed beta, where it's like if the game degrades in quality, the best thing to do is just restart. I hope that's not going to be a thing for when the game does come out. If so, dear. But regardless, I'm happy to report that the performance on my end was absolutely fine and actually exceeded expectations. So let's wrap things up by talking about the specialties. Now, there wasn't any major sort of changes to the specialties. There wasn't any sort of changes or buffs or sort of major downgrades or upgrades for these particular weapons. I did notice that some of the specialties did have an increased ammunition drop rate. So I don't know if this was because of the the open beta, or the fact that the weapon I was utilizing was able to gain that much more ammo. The sniper in particular was the one that got the most ammo out of everything. So, and the crossbow bolt. Crossbow and the sniper got the most. I think all of them got an increased amount of ammunition, but the most ammunition came out of the sniper and the crossbow. So, again, but nothing immensely, but again, could be just the open beta. So, I'm going to chalk that up to, if it's that because of the amount of ammo you get for, if it's that sort of style because of the ammo you get for the open beta, that makes sense. If they're thinking about putting that in the full game, maybe dial it back a tiny bit, because obviously then potentially you might have a person who just has shit tons of good ammo. So you want them to use your other guns, mind. But no, regardless, I didn't see any major differences, so we're going to kind of instead talk about the classes that I enjoyed the most to the least, utilizing my experience and hopefully solidifying the role that I'm going to be aiming for when I initially start my Division 2 experience. So the most enjoyed class of this particular beta was in fact the sniper rifle, which was a rather big surprise considering in the closed beta I pretty much said I fucking hated the damn thing. Well, maybe not exactly those words, but I definitely did not enjoy it as much as I thought I would, and in fact I was quite disappointed by that particular weapon. However, I did also admit the fact that having utilized the weapon for the first time, I didn't really have the right kind of mindset for it, thinking it was more going to be like how I like to be a sniper in that game, which is mid-range DMR towards semi-long range bolt shots for initial engagements. And also due to the fact that the mission itself was not exceptionally well designed for that particular class. However, with the experience in my head and the ability to, you know, actually learn from a lesson, I was able to utilize it in a much more enjoyable and a much more effective manner, resulting in me having a lot more fun with it. And especially once I got to use the UAV drone skill, which I think is a signature skill from that particular class, which allows you to basically tell a drone to go to a location. It'll fly up to the top and just spot everything on the ground, even when it's in cover. And it was excessively useful as a sort of... It allowed me to do what I like to do. It allowed me to fulfill my role as mid-range support slash DPS on late-game bosses. And I've even been able to take out the enemy, like the enemy boss of the whole level. So I'm pretty happy with the way that sniper rifle worked. Going on to the second most enjoyed class, I had a bad experience, but I still think it's really good, the crossbow. Now, the crossbow was my class to be, and I still think that I am going to go for the crossbow, because it is actually a nice blend between mid-range and long-range combat, and it allows me to fuck over someone in a glorious manner. Unlike a sniper rifle where you shoot, you don't really see what happens to them, whereas the crossbow, or I'm going to call the Amazon 9K, just to piss off friends, because the game has all of the names for all of the different weapons, but with the crossbow it's just crossbow, so I'm going to call it the Amazon 9K. Basically it has a sticky dart which you fire into your opponent, and it does a fair amount of damage. It is mainly anti-infantry though, so it's completely useless against the drones, which is useful. It's a good thing to have on that, because yeah, well, it's not completely useless, but it's designed to, it's the intent of having a bleed effect, and obviously robots don't bleed, so, you know, it's not really that useful when it comes to that sort of thing. But anyway, so the crossbow I had a bit of a negative experience with, regretfully. I was quite late at night, so I wasn't really fully paying attention, but yeah, I got countered quite hard. There was loads of sniper rifles against me, high DPS, and they had the range, I didn't. And yeah, I was on my own, so there was no chance for my class to really shine in it, as it were, and I was struggling even with everything else. So really good. It made it very enjoyable. I reckon I could have probably done it if I grinded out just about enough, but I had to make the call between either going to bed before 3 or somewhat sacrificing my night's worth of sleep. So I went with the going to bed before 3. So that was a bit of a negative experience, but it still was an enjoyable class. I still like using the Amazon 9K. It just rolls really well, and it flows with my combat style. Again, providing the mid-range support, second line advanced style mechanical. So what else is there? Yes, the last class, the one that I'm not exactly a big fan of, and you're probably going to be surprised to hear, is in fact the M32 grenade launcher. I'm not a big fan of this weapon, I'll be honest with you. It is, yeah, I'm not a big fan. Yeah, it's one of those weapons that I just cannot really get enthusiasm for. It's weird. You'd think it would be a no-brainer, but it's really not. It's one of those weapons which once you use once, you kind of know exactly what you're expecting and what you're getting from it. And I can honestly say it's something I'll happily pass on. I will play it, of course, because I need to do I'm going to do a review on it, so I will have to play it. But it's one of those weapons which I honestly think, meh, over. And it's been like that from the closed beta, and it's even more like that in the open beta. The weapons that came with it, like the weapons that were in the class that were already preordained, were actually more enjoyable than the actual M32 itself. I'm also not a big fan of the ginormous bag that's in the way of the screen half the time, so, like, your character is virtually obscured by the big bag. So, yeah, I'm not the biggest of fans of that particular gun or that class, but again, you know, I used it, it worked, it rolled off, it was pretty much that, and that's really all I have to say regarding the M32. But no, for the rest of the specialties, I had a lot more fun, and I definitely am... the sniper is definitely going to be the second class I'll roll for, and then obviously then I'll finally do the M32, but it will be much longer afterwards. Like, you'll have to wait a bit before that, but still, very much enjoyable. So guys, there you have it, the Division 2 open beta. Not a lot more stuff in comparison to the other game, the other beta, so not really much to talk about apart from the new things we encountered and the better performance and my sort of changing opinions of the specialties, but it was still just as enjoyable, and I'm very curious to hear what you guys' opinion is as well. Did you enjoy the beta? Was it the first time you had the opportunity to play the beta? Did you not get access to the previous one? Did you like the specialty weapons I had, or did you do you not a big fan of any of them? Or let me know in the comment section down below. I'd be very intrigued just to hear what your opinions are regarding weapons in the games and everything along the sort. Also, Mr. Quinch, thank you very much for commentating as well. I did find those tunnels. In fact, that was one of the things, if you're watching now, you should be able to see when I discovered the tunnels and went through into them, which was actually quite nice. Little side point, it's basically an underground sort of tunnel area where you can grab some water supplies as well as a few bits of gear. Hopefully it's going to be like that in the full game, or it's going to be maybe even a base defense or whatever. Rather depressingly though, the game gave me the option of doing a side mission to help a medical center, but it was outside of fucking bounds. Oh, so yeah, I have to wait till fucking next week for that one. But that said, less than a week to go, so a little excited I am. And yes, I will try and do a bit more of an in-depth analysis style review of the different specialties when they do come, well, when I can get to them and fully grow them out. I'm not too sure how I'll do it, because obviously it's very dependent on what kind of gear you want, but regardless, it is a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to playing them when they eventually do come out next week. Fuck yes. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed. Let me know anything else in the comment section, clicking on the like button, and if you want to get more content, feel free to hit that subscribe with the notification bell. I'll see you next time.